Now, when we talk about HIV, it is a new disease. It's only about 26 years old. Okay, and we know that this disease is spread only by human behavior, whether it in blood transfusion, whether it is sexual behavior, whether we use intravenous drug uses, it is spread by human behavior. Okay, and any behavioral disease has to be modified. We need to bring a change in behavior of the person, and this is where ethics, morals, laws come into play. Other thing that we have is this thing, it has occurred at an era when human rights are more important than community rights. Okay, individual rights are more important. If the same epidemic had occurred somewhere in 16th century, people would have just been caught, isolated, and houses would have been burnt, destroyed, something that happened in the Europe when plague spread in 16th century. Okay, unfortunately or fortunately, HIV has occurred when people have been more conscious of individual and human rights. Other thing that has happened in AIDS, why this HIV has become so important, is the first group of people who are the first group of people who are affected. It is men having sex with men, and that too in America. Though they are a minority of marginalized people, power-wise they are very powerful people. Okay, so they brought into focus the HIV and AIDS. Today it has become very, very important. Now, when we look this, why should we talk about ethics? Okay, the basic reason why ethics becomes important in HIV is we need to protect our interests, that is the medical professional interest, patient interest, as well as that of the society. When you look at the society reacted to this HIV and AIDS epidemic by stigmatization, discrimination, prejudice and isolation, and it is, as time went on, we found that society's interest is best preserved for individual is being integrated but with the mainstream of the society, and we achieve this by recognizing the rights of the patient and facilitating the same. And we need to consider that HIV of positive person is a part of the solution, not the part of the problem. Now, when we talk about challenges, the public health challenges to prevent the spread of HIV infection, infected persons' challenges to avert illness, maximize the effectiveness of treatment, and live as long as possible, as productively as possible. Then when you talk about human rights and HIV, human rights protection is important for human dignity. Public their health intentions do not conflict with human rights, and applying human rights, few people are infected with HIV infection, and families can cope with the care of HIV infected patients. Now, when we look at human rights, does it work? Countries that have approached the problem applying human rights have been able to reduce the incidence of HIV. Classical example in the 90s was Australia and England, where they totally applied human rights angle to this problem. And now we talk about less developed countries like Uganda and Cambodia, where the incidence of HIV has come down. Countries that have used isolation methods have spent enormous amount of money, and HIV has been spreading. Classical example is Cuba. Cuban soldiers in 1980s were sent to, there is one of the communist countries which sent soldiers to Africa to fight the different wars that took place. And these Cuban soldiers came back to Cuba in 1985-86. And the test for the HIV infection was available in 86, and Cuba has one of the best health systems in the world. So all these patients, soldiers were tested. Those who were found positive were taken into Havana, kept in isolation. And as 2 years, 3 years went by, at those days we never had treatment for this condition. Patients were given privileges to go home and come back for the weekends. And they found people were escaping, and HIV was spreading faster than that. Other place was Romania, where again HIV has become a major problem because of the isolationist policies that the government has been following. So the basic point that I want to make is human rights approach definitely work when we deal with HIV infection. Now, when we talk about medical ethics, there are 4 principles which again and again I keep repeating: do the best for your patients, do not harm the patient, autonomy, and justice. Now, when you say do the best for your patient, you should not discriminate patients. Okay, that is what we keep talking about. And one of the points that you have to ask question is, does the doctor have a right to choose his patient? Yes or no? Doctor definitely has a right to choose his patients. Okay. The medical council gives you the right to choose patients, and it says it should be without discrimination. Okay. What does it mean by discrimination? Like for example, you are a surgeon, you operate on patients with appendicitis regularly, and there is a patient who comes and says, I am HIV positive, then you say, no, you are HIV positive, I am not going to operate. That is discrimination. Okay. Just because the Indian Medical Council code gives you a right to keep the timings for your this thing, you fix up time that you will see patients between 8 and 12, and if a patient comes at 2 o'clock, you cannot demand that he has to be seen. Okay. So you have the right, but it should not be discriminatory. Okay. So you cannot discriminate based only on the patient. Now there is another problem. This is Dr. Krishna, who is working as a duty medical officer in the district hospital, refuses to see patients if they are HIV positive. Can you do that? No. Okay. And here the reason that we put is, anybody who works in the institution, the institutional ethics governs that person's behavior. Okay, this is very important. You cannot say working in a hospital saying, I don't believe what the institution stands for, I'll do whatever I want to do. Okay. So whether you are in government service or private service, institutional ethics becomes supreme over individual ethics. What I mean to say is, like for example, Catholic institutions do not do family planning operations. Tubectomies are not done, abortions are not done. You cannot be a gynecologist saying, no, I don't care for what they say, I'll keep on doing tubectomies, I'll keep on doing abortions. Okay, I am giving a gross example. There are other things that happen. Like some places they may say, no, unless you pay, you don't treat. You may be working in a situation in a private nursing home. They say, I'll put up the thing, let them do whatever they want. That is not there. When you come to a question of do no harm, the important thing that you have to talk about HIV is confidentiality. Okay, and confidentiality has to be maintained. And usually what we have in a HIV setting is a shared confidentiality. What do we mean by shared confidentiality? Okay, when you say shared confidentiality, every member of the team of the hospital shares that confidentiality. It is not only the doctor. The doctor may not tell anybody, but what if the accountant goes and tells, oh, they did a HIV test on him, when I looked at the thing, it is positive. Okay. So it is important that we educate the whole medical community with whom we are working about the importance of maintaining confidentiality. Okay. Then notification of diseases is another place where confidentiality has to be broken, and this is mandated by law. HIV till today is not a notifiable disease. Okay. Now we have here a situation. Raj is a 48-year-old businessman detected to be HIV positive. He is married, has 2 children aged 13 years and 10 years. He requests that his information should not be revealed to anybody. What will you do?
We can counsel Mr. Raju to talk to his wife and discuss the implications of being HIV positive, the virus that can be transmitted.
Why only to the
also.
wife? Why not to his brother?
Why should his brother know?
Why?
Because
the family supports, no? We all live in families, no?
We are not sure whether the family will support.
The person to know is his wife.
Because there is the wife has the risk of getting infected by the husband. So
fine. Okay.
They have to be
So
counseled.
wife is at a risk, so you would tell them. Okay. Now this is her next case. Muniappa is a truck driver admitted with prolonged fever, diagnosed as HIV positive. His hospital bills are paid by his owner. The patient says that his status should not be revealed to any person other than his wife. His owner meets you and asks for a complete diagnosis. What will you do? Will you tell the owner?
Should not be divulged. No.
He'll say, if you don't tell me the diagnosis, I will not pay the money.
Okay, let him not pay.
You think I'll lose money? Hospital will lose money? Now I'll send another one case, before we talk about this little further. Stan is working in a public sector industry. Factory has an understanding with the hospital that will clear the bills only if a discharge summary is given with all the lab tests. Stan tests positive and requests that his results need not be informed to the factory. What will you do?
Revealing the HIV status to anyone, whether it is the wife or it is anybody else, it is first preparing the patient to reveal their own status to somewhere where they think it is required.
We'll come to that
I think
later.
that is something which is,
Okay. I'll come to it a little later. Okay. Now see, the difference here is there is a relationship between the employer and the patient, the employer and the hospital. Okay. In the first case, there is no relationship between the employer and the hospital. Here there is a relationship. Okay. So if you have to honor the relationship, you have to write what it is. Okay. Now there are two solutions that you can have. One is ask Stan to pay only for the HIV test, rest of the tests you send as it is. The second thing is in relation to discharge discharge summaries. Okay. Now remember, discharge summaries are a medical document. They are supposed to be confidential. Okay. It has to be shared in relation to medicine, medical thing, and whoever reads the discharge summary also has to maintain the confidentiality. But unfortunately, in our situation, what happens is the discharge summaries become public documents. Okay. So they not only show the relatives and friends, even the accountants have to will pass the bill only after the discharge summary is given. In this situation, what should we do? These are day-to-day ethical problems. You have to, on one hand, you have to tell the employer, on the other hand, you have to give a discharge summary. Okay. So here is where we use deception. Okay. You are not telling lies, but you are deceiving a person. You know, there is a difference between deception and telling lies. Telling lies, you would valiantly change something, but here you couch it in such a way that the other person does not understand that you are hiding something. There are two ways of doing it. Use terms which are not normally understandable by lay people. Okay. Instead of saying a human immunodeficiency virus or HIV, you say a retroviral infection. Okay. Unless that person is into medical this thing, he will not know what is retroviral infection is. The second one is to give two discharge summaries, one for public consumption, another for medical practice. Okay. You tell the patient, take this and give it to your accountant, keep this with you when you go to some doctor there, show this. Okay. We have tried both, you know, but you know, patient will confuse which is the one to give, which is not to be given, and this happens. Okay. These are problems that have practical problems. And
why is it that there is
Yes.
more discrimination on HIV than tuberculosis?
pardon?
Why is it there is more discrimination on HIV patients than tuberculosis patients? Because you can easily get tuberculosis through the person. Why should that?
No, the problem with the HIV is it is the sexual taboo that goes on to it. Okay, it is mainly sex related, and in the beginning it was only a disease which was seen only among men having sex with men, so that there is severe taboo attached because of its sexual connotation and sexual mode of spread.
No, I said, why is it the discrimination is more on HIV than
So we make
TB?
moral judgments on people. This person is a bad person, that's why he has got this disease. Whereas in tuberculosis, we make a moral judgment saying, poor man, he is overcrowded, he is in a place where there is a lot of cough, he is not having food to eat, that's why he has got tuberculosis. That's why you make this distinction. Whereas here, you HIV, you make the man as morally bad, morally wrong, he is a sinner. Whereas in tuberculosis, we have pity because he has got it because of the environment that surrounds him. That is the major reason why we have discrimination.
I also had was when you talked in the hospital, we educate our, you know, we maintain the records that the confidentiality is not revealed. Within one clinic setting where a particular HIV positive people are expected to be coming more, okay, there we may reveal, but the moment the person is referred to another clinic for say another department, there maybe HIV is not a major concern and the identification of that person is revealed.